Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into an absolutely gripping first-hand account of a German soldier during World War II. But, instead of zooming way out to focus on grand strategy or massive troop movements, this entire narrative is anchored by a single, tangible object, a hidden canvas pouch. Inside this little pouch were 23 letters that held the dangerous, totally unvarnished reality of the war. It's really a story about the devastating weight of truth and what happens when ordinary people are forced to make a choice between a comfortable lie and a crushing reality. Let's get into it.
To really understand the weight of this pouch, we gotta meet Lukas. I want you to imagine you are a 17-year-old kid living in Bremen. The war has finally stopped being this distant thing you hear about on the radio, and it's become something that is literally ripping your street apart. You and your best friend Lukas Reinhardt, who's this sharp-faced kid just totally obsessed with building radios, you both get drafted. Now, sitting on the train on the way to basic training, Lukas pulls out a stack of paper. He had promised his mother he'd write home every single week. But knowing the military censors are going to read everything, he makes a remarkably rebellious decision. He divides the paper into two piles and states it perfectly. One version for the army and one version for the truth.
So, let's look at part 1, 2 versions of truth. From the reality of Bremen to the trenches of Normandy.
Your ordinary life, waking up early to help your father in his bicycle repair shop, smelling like grease before breakfast, well, that's completely gone. It's been replaced by the brutal reality of the draft and the freezing mud of northern Germany. And once you're deployed to Normandy in early 1944, this massive cognitive dissonance just sets in. Now, what's really interesting here is the contrast. The sanitized official letters Lukas actually sends home, they talk about adequate food, strong morale, and this impenetrable Atlantic wall. But the truth? The truth he writes and literally hides in a canvas pouch beneath his radio batteries tells a completely different story. Overwhelming exhaustion, skies just filled with Allied aircraft, and the terrifying realization that this defensive wall is completely unfinished. Now, Lukas's hidden letters actually echo a warning you received right before leaving home. Your father, Wilhelm, who was a World War I veteran, lost 2 fingers, and lost absolutely all his illusions about the glory of combat, he pulled you aside. He didn't hand you a medal or give you some grand patriotic speech. Instead, he gave you this incredibly heavy piece of advice. He said, do not confuse surviving with being right, and do not let another man's certainty replace your conscience. At 18, you probably didn't fully grasp what those words meant, but Lukas's canvas pouch was about to become a living embodiment of them. Moving right along to part 2, the canvas pouch, D-Day and the collapse of the wall. So, that brings us to June 1944. The commanding officers had sworn up and down that the Atlantic Wall would destroy any invasion right there in the water. But on June 6th, that illusion completely shatters. The promised impregnable defense meets the overwhelming, chaotic reality of a massive Allied invasion. Lukas is just glued to his radio beside this damaged bunker as the horizon flashes continuously. And the messages coming in, they're rapid, fragmented, and totally contradictory. Hold the position, withdraw, counterattack, wait for armor. Armor that, by the way, is never coming. The official narrative is literally falling apart under fire, just as the physical wall is crumbling around you. But darkness is too far away. Put yourself right there in that trench. American mortar rounds are walking closer and closer. One hits behind you. The next is even closer. Lukas refuses to leave his radio because a message is coming through. And then, the 3rd round hits the bunker entrance. Boom. You wake up with soil in your mouth and this terrible high-pitched ringing in your ears. The trench is collapsed, the radio is completely destroyed, and you turn to see Lukas lying against the wall, conscious but fatally wounded in the stomach. You crawl over to him, right? And you're expecting him to ask for a medic, but instead, he points beneath the smashed radio batteries. He wants the pouch. He presses it right against your chest. And this is the real emotional climax of the battle. He isn't acting like some dramatic action hero, he's just asking his best friend to complete a task. He whispers, "My mother," not the army ones. As Allied fire closes in and you are forced to retreat, leaving him behind, Lukas makes you promise. Promise me you won't give her the lies. Which leads us to part 3, returning with the words. From a POW camp to a ruined city.
You're actually forced to leave him there, escaping inland with a handful of survivors until an American patrol eventually captures your unit. And then, in this totally terrifying moment, an American soldier searches you and tosses Lukas's pouch onto the ground. Without even thinking, with a rifle pointed right at your face, you step toward it and say in broken English, "Letters, mother." The soldier looks at you, picks up the pouch and pushes it back against your chest. He lets you keep the truth. And this begins the incredible journey of those letters. From being drafted in 1943 to the beaches of Normandy, you carry those 23 hidden letters all the way across the Atlantic to a prisoner of war camp in the United States, hiding them beneath your mattress for over a year, until you finally carry them back home to a bombed-out Bremen in 1946.
But while you're sitting in that POW camp in 1945, something inside you profoundly shifts. Newspapers start arriving showing the liberated concentration camps, the starvation, the bodies. While some prisoners try to dismiss it as propaganda, you realize the horrific truth of the regime. You didn't design those camps, sure, but you wore the uniform of the state that built them. You defended its territory. You realize that avoiding questions doesn't magically make you innocent. The uniform itself made you complicit.
So you finally make it back to Bremen with this immense, crushing guilt. You find your home half destroyed and learn your father was killed in a bombing raid. You find out Frau Reinhardt's address, and for weeks you put the pouch in your coat every single morning, and every evening you return home without delivering it. You are just paralyzed by one agonizing question: will the truth just hurt her? You are terrified to look a mother in the eye and tell her that you left her son behind to die.
Okay, part 4, delivering the letters, confronting the safe lie.
It actually takes your own mother to force your hand. She tells you that every day you keep the pouch, you are actively choosing not to deliver it. The very next morning, sitting right there at Frau Reinhardt's table, you face an impossible choice. You could offer the comfortable lie she's expecting, that he died bravely, that it was quick, that he spoke of her at the end. Or, remembering your promise to Lukas, you can hand over the raw, terrifying truth, the letters where he admits how deeply frightened he was and how he knew the war was lost long, long ago. Her hands are literally shaking as she touches the letters. And then she asks the questions you've been dreading the most. Were you with him? You answer, yes. Did you leave him? You answer, yes. It is just a stark, emotionally devastating exchange. You explain the shelling, the destroyed radio, the retreat. You don't ask for forgiveness because you know any explanation would just sound like you are making cheap excuses for yourself. You just deliver the brutal reality of it.
But here is the crucial point. Frau Reinhardt's reaction isn't at all what you dreaded. She doesn't scream. She doesn't condemn you. She just looks at the pouch and says, "He trusted you to bring these." When you stammer out that you waited too long, she simply replies, "But you brought them." It isn't exactly forgiveness, but it is a sort of tragic peace. She asks you to stay while she reads that first letter, weeping as she finally gets to hear her son's genuine experience.
Which brings us to our final section, part 5, the weight of memory, the legacy of refusing the lie.
The decades pass. Germany slowly rebuilds itself around ruins that never completely disappear from sight. You marry. You take over your father's bicycle shop, and you carry this very heavy lesson forward into your new life. When your own daughter asks what you did in the war, you don't say you were just following orders. You teach her to acknowledge the truth that ordinary people absolutely can be manipulated, but our choices ultimately belong to us. You teach her to remember the victims and to rebuild the future without ever pretending the past didn't happen.
You keep no heroic medals from the war, only a sketch Lukas drew and that empty canvas pouch that Frau Reinhardt returned to you after she finished reading the letters. Decades later, after she passes away, you happen to look inside that empty pouch and find a note she had secretly placed there years ago. It reads, "He came home," in his own words. That is what you carried. It completely solidifies the beautiful, ultimate value of the lifelong burden you bore.
And this takes us to the final scene. You are 72 years old now. A young customer brings a cheap, broken plastic radio into your bicycle shop. And as you open the casing and catch that distinct smell of heated metal, you are instantly transported right back to that farmhouse in Normandy. Lukas bent over his radio, promising 2 versions of every letter. You realize in that moment that what Lukas asked of you in the trench, and what your father asked of you before you left, not to confuse surviving with being right, were actually the exact same thing.
So the story ends not on a muddy battlefield, but in the quiet, difficult, everyday life that came after. It leaves us to reflect on the immense weight of the past. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to really ask yourself, in a world that is so full of comfortable, easy lies, What uncomfortable truth are you choosing to carry?